You're listening to the 14th source for all geeky and nerdy news and discussion, which means that you're listening to a podcast.
For all intents and purposes.
I am D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
And we are your two overeducated, codependent nerd hosts, bringing you the things that we like to talk about, but filtered through inquisitive and critical lenses. An episode for Friday, March 17th. 2023. And let me tell you, dear listeners, the one thing that we don't have this week, again, is time. But we want to get you some content.
Oh my goodness, it is finals week.
Yep, and I'm about to hit spring break. I'm going to be on a plane when you're hearing this, dear listeners. So we need to get going. We need to keep charging forward. Let's see if we can do this. Let's see if we can do like a power episode. I don't know if, sure. Power
Twice
wash
the content half the time.
That sounds like a t-shirt if I've ever heard one. So with that in mind, we want to do like a mini quickie. I don't like that either, but you know what? I'll roll with it. A mini quickie power Week in Geek. Andrew, what was your mini power Week in Geek like this week?
All right. Man, this got away from us. Hey, so this week I watched a movie on the TV. I watched I watched 1.5 movies, but I didn't finish the second one, so I'm only going to talk about one.
Okay.
I watched the popular, probably award-winning film, but I don't remember, Creed. I watched the first movie in the Creed trilogy.
You've seen that before.
Creed? No, I've not.
Oh, you've not? You saw Balboa.
No? Yeah, I saw Rocky Balboa in the theater, 20 years ago? 15 years ago?
Jesus Christ, has it been that long?
And I've, of course, seen some of the original Rocky quintology. Not all of them, though, because, I just haven't.
Remember when Rocky goes overseas and teaches the Al-Qaeda how to fight? Wait, no.
No, that's a Tom Cruise movie. I want to take a minute to talk about it because, first of all, Creed is it's an interesting movie because it's kind of an important movie in so much that it really helped kind of put both Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler on a trajectory, I think. Right. It was a well-received film, but also kind of weirdly enough, it is it's part of the Rocky cinematic universe, right? Which
there's a word for this. I heard it called, not this movie, but there's another movie that's coming out. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe it's a game, but they call it a requel. It's like a reboot and a sequel kind of thing.
Right. Well, it's weird is because this one, it does both a sequel and it does. Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of this. Right. Because what we have is the story of Adonis Creed, who we discover is a kid. He's a kid that kind of was in foster homes and stuff, and then gets adopted by this woman and raised. And the idea the woman is the wife of Apollo Creed, but not his mother. He is the son of Apollo Creed. Basically, the reveal is that in Rocky IV, before Apollo Creed gets killed by Ivan Drago, Apollo Creed engages in extramarital encounter with a woman who sires a son after his death.
Like the Game of Thrones lingo.
Right.
Who sires a son and begins a brand new dynasty.
Yeah, and then mom dies. Kid goes into foster care, and then eventually, Apollo Creed's widow says, "Well, I'm going to adopt you because you're Apollo's son, and I'm going to raise you." And he grows up, and then it kind of follows him as an adult. We see him kind of in a 9-to-5 type of job, making headway, but he boxes, and he wants to box because that he is, that's what his family, his father did. And it's interesting because it is in so much a story that is, you could almost say in this regard, it's a loose spin-off of this character from Rocky, but it also features Rocky Balboa, as played by Sylvester Stallone, because of course Creed, when he decides I want to become a boxer, he goes to boxing gym and they're like, we're not going to train you, right? Like you're your father's son. We don't want to do that. And so he moves to Philadelphia from Los Angeles. And of course runs into Rocky and basically kind of puts himself into Rocky's life. And in some regard, the story becomes as much a story about Rocky growing old, which we've already seen, but now it's growing older, but like kind of almost with like a surrogate son, right? Because in Rocky Balboa, we see he's estranged from his son. his actual son, his biological son. So it's a weird movie, right? And as someone who has a fondness for the Rocky series, I think I've mentioned previously, I had a roommate in college who was weirdly obsessed with the series, so he kind of got me into them. Obviously, I haven't seen all of them because it's okay to skip a few.
Indeed,
I think what fascinates me is a movie is how much it is both. Like it manages, and I watched the first half of the second movie, which does this even more, doubles down on this idea that it is as much a movie about this character, Adonis Creed, and his life, his rise to stardom as a boxer, his successes, his failures, as it is also a story about Rocky and and Adonis's father, Apollo. With the idea being the villain of Rocky, of Creed 2 is Ivan Drago and his son.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Right. And the idea that Dolph Lundgren reprises his role as Ivan Drago and comes to America with his son saying like, I want to fight you. Or my son wants to box against you. And it's weird, right? Because it's like, yeah, man, Ivan Drago killed his dad, right? So I think it's an interesting thing. I actually think it's a well done film. I'm not a big sports movie guy, but they get there's enough character there, and enough enough of the drama. And I think it's been around long enough. Spoiler warning, I guess. Like one of the discoveries of the film is that Rocky has cancer. And there's a scene where the two of them, they've become family really at this point, and Rocky's like, whatever, I'm ready to be done. And Adonis is like, is turns it on him. It's like, well, no, you tell me to never give up, to keep fighting. You got to do that too. And it has that very wholesome, you taught me, I now teach you. Pokemon. Wait, no, that's
yep. Gotta catch them all.
And it really, and it's weird because, like I said, even though he refers to Rocky as Unc in the narrative, i.e. uncle, there very much is this like it's the son he never had and the father he never had.
Yeah, actually, a lot of parallels to another property, or I guess a requel property that you are also a big fan of, which is Cobra Kai in some ways, right?
Yeah, it's. Apparently, I like bizarro sports movies about off-brand sports.
It's interesting. Was there like a director's cut of, because Apollo Creed and the Ivan Drago, that's Rocky 3 or 4?
That's Ivan Drago is Rocky 4, Creed 2.
Okay, so like, is there like a director's cut of Creed 4? I mean Rocky 4 that I don't know about. I thought Apollo Creed died by alien hands in the jungles of Guatemala.
It's really easy to confuse them.
You know what? I haven't seen them.
I haven't seen them. No, it's easy to confuse. Easy to confuse.
Yeah, fair.
Right. And I mean, I don't know where to go with that, but yes.
I mean, we already saw what happens, I guess, in Creed 3, right? He goes to
the quantum verse.
That's right. After going
to the end of time,
after going to Wakanda,
and then being in racist Massachusetts for a while. I mean, it's a lot of
So it's a complicated. It's a complicated story, is what I'm hearing. Which everything's going complicated now. It's really frustrating.
It is. No, I think it's one of the things I think I like the most about the first movie is how, like, for example, there's a statue of Rocky in Philadelphia, right?
Right.
And that comes up. Right, it shows people posing by the statue and how much that is both like a thing for Adonis is like, who he's comparing himself to a certain extent, but also then Rocky, like his kind of like, looking back on himself. It's weird that a film, inspires like a cultural icon that then we now have like a sequel to that decades later that, I think I'll probably have more to say once I've seen Creed 2 without falling asleep. And I didn't fall asleep because it was boring. I fell asleep because I finished the first one late at night, and I thought I was on the jazz, right? I want to keep watching this.
But Andrew, we're old.
I know.
We can't do that anymore.
I figured that out when I fell asleep. Yeah,
right? You pulled a classic Asplund family move, just falling asleep on the couch.
Falling asleep on the couch.
I heard it's really good. I mean, I remember years ago at this point, but Nicole and I were like, we should watch Rocky. Like, we're not sports people, but like, it's supposed to be like really good and like it's a classic, and we'll just follow what we can. And like it's a good movie. Like it's a drama, that happens to be about a guy that does the sports.
Right. It's a drama that's got like 15 minutes of people punching each other in it.
Right. Right.
But like not in a normal way.
Right. Not in a Marvel Studios kind of. And that's an hour 45 minutes of people punching each other anyway. Good. Well, it sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I think I'll have more to say once I've seen. And I won't see the third one until it's out on the home video. But
that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm really interested to see where they go with the series. Yeah. And I recommend it. I think it's a fun story. And if nothing else, Michael B. Jordan, a very attractive fella, spends a lot of the movie with his shirt off. So if you're into that. Sign up.
Oh man, Creed 3 is going to be a big problem then.
Creed 3 is like, wait, do we have two really attractive
Creed 3 : Pecs.
Pecs. Topless Wonderland. All right, that was my super quick week in Geek. Dan, what about you?
Mine is going to be even faster. A trailer came out this last couple of weeks that kind of blew my mind. It's for an upcoming animated film by Nickelodeon called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. And we don't know much about it. Just like it was nothing that I expected, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's got this weird it's clearly a CG film with some sort of, painterly overlay going on over it. Kind of like Into the Spider-Verse is what people have been connecting it to. From what I understand it, and what it looks like to me, it's more like that League of Legends show on Netflix, where it looks more like paint strokes rather than like half-framed kind of comic booky stuff. But it just looks like. What I liked about it is that it feels like a fresh take on the Ninja Turtles. The Turtles actually feel like stupid teenagers.
As opposed to middle-aged Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Well, no, as like superheroes just acting like fools, right? Like that's how they tend to be, because they're always jacked, right? Then like they got muscles and they have their weapons and they're like seemingly as tall as people in most cases. But this is like they're lanky, stupid, goofy kids. And if you haven't seen the trailer, it starts with them just being stupid teenagers. They're just goofing off on a rooftop, right? And that's like exactly what I think I've talked about my sort of what I like about the Ninja Turtles cinematic entries and even televised entries. And the thing that really speaks to me, despite being an only child, is like I want to see them acting like brothers before ninjas, right? I like to see that sort of familial interaction where they're just kind of like bumping into each other and pushing each other around and just being family. And that kind of tells more of a story than just it's a team of superheroes, because we see that all the time, every day, in a million iterations. Right. And that's actually kind of what sets them apart. It looks like they're making a lot of different and interesting and new choices. The cast generally seems to be kind of people I don't know, because it sounds like they're casting young people, right, to play these turtles. But the main thing is that it's the first sort of effort with this franchise helmed by, I mean, as in a
teenagers.
No. In a producer capacity, Seth Rogen is he took the lead on that after the most recent television version, and of course the cinematic entries kind of petered out. And he's like, I have an idea, and you can go into that with all the skepticism you want, but based on that first trailer, it looks amazing and exactly kind of what, in my personal point of view, what the franchise needed. Some of the voice cast that does stand out: Jackie Chan as Splinter, John Cena as Rocksteady. But the thing I'm also interested in is as it's the directorial debut of an animator named Jeff Rowe. And I know him because he worked as a writer on Gravity Falls and was one of the writers on one of the best animated films of the last couple of years, The Mitchells versus the Machines. And that's enough pedigree for me. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem looks dope, and I'm very excited for it.
Well, no, that's good. That's exciting. We'll see what comes of it, right?
Indeed. And do you know what comes of this episode? The end.
The end.
So if you, dear listeners, have any thoughts about the topics we discussed this week, feel free to leave your thoughts as comments on the page for this episode at forallintents.net.
You can also post your comments on the Facebook page, assuming we still have one.
Yeah, it's still there, I think.
I just say that I don't log in, so maybe it's gone.
You can find us on other social media, at least at the ones that we frequent. You can find me on Twitter. No, fuck Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at dbethelcomic, and you find Andrew at Mastodon at profounddark@dice.camp.
I should make a forallintents.net instance. That'll solve it for
Oh, there we go.
For both of us. Yeah. While you're at our website, forallintents.net, you can also take a look at our YouTube page, or you may be already there listening to our show as it is simulcast in YouTube. If you are there, please feel free to like it. You can subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things that people say you should do on YouTube. We're not monetizing it, but, have a good time.
We use 2 tracks of music for our show. One is called Disco Medusae. The other is called District 4, both written and performed by Kevin McLeod of the Clan McLeod, an immortal swordsman, graph paper enthusiast, and musician extraordinaire.
You can find his music at incompetech.fieldmusic.io, and that's all licensed under the Creative Commons 4.0 attribution license.
If you like the show and like to help us out, the best way to do so would be to subscribe to the show using whichever podcasting service you happen to use. What would help us out even more would be to leave some sort of review. Whether a text review or using their proprietary metric will spread the word to new potential listeners through the magic of algorithms. I just want to, we got to go. I got to catch a plane. But I do want to say this. I had an awesome week this week, Andrew. I got to give a presentation to an upper division literature class, a class about graphic novels as literature, for which Long John's Volume 1 and 2 were assigned. And I got to go speak to the class. And I did that a couple years ago and it was super awesome. And I'm going to pretend like it's already happened, but it hasn't. But it was awesome again. But the one thing I do want to express on record is my gratitude to Dr. Finetti for letting me come to her class and letting me talk to her students about my silly little comic about a cowboy with no clothes. So I wanted that on record.
Well, that's great.
So until you get business done in a relatively short amount of time, dear listeners, I'm D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
And for all intents and purposes,
that was a podcast. I got a pizza coming in 30, 40 minutes. So this
shit, we can do this. Let's do this. After 1.
Next week, I'll just talk to myself.
But you couldn't have already do that. Like you said, in YouTube, it made it sound like in CinemaScope. We're broadcasting in YouTube.
In my brain, it was in Espanol. But,
go get your fucking pizza, bro. Go get it.
It's not delivered yet, man.
I know. That's how good we are.